again and welcome back to Business. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is attributing the Eurobond oversubscription to high investor confidence in the country. Government finally managed to raise the projected $3 billion in London yesterday at the end of its Eurobond roadshow. This was after it received almost $15 billion in bids from investors. This represents 5 times more than the targeted amount. Despite the success, economist Professor Godfred Walken is shocked at the news of oversubscription, but attributed the success to Ghana's performance in the latest Moody's rating. He spoke to Fred Duho.
It's good news for the Ministry of Finance, it's good news for government economic management team, it's good news for the country because we have achieved the goal. What was the goal? To raise $3 billion. We were concerned about the yield, but I think what has been reported, and I think is fairly a good deal for Ghana. The reason I'm saying it's fairly a good deal for Ghana is that this year is an election year, and usually in an election year the uncertainty tends to increase, and for them to have gotten the deal at this rate, and from the Minister of Finance and his team that they have done a good job in terms of the roadshow, packaging the document, and also it's an affirmation to some extent in terms of the long-term outlook of our economy, which is also based on the progress that the government has made so far. So to that extent, we will say that is fantastic for the government.
What about the approach used? Do you have any sentiments about this approach used?
I think that it looks to me that the Minister of Finance and his team, they fully understand the workings of the international capital market, because the last one that they went, the one before this one, we feared the rate was going to be high, but they pulled through in a manner that was fairly okay. Of course, somebody will say that it's dollar denominated, and anything above 6% is still very high, given what other countries are doing on the market in terms of the rate at which they are getting theirs. But don't forget that this is an African country, and it's an election year, and all that risk could have been priced into it, for which reason investors would have held out for higher yield as a way of seeking greater protection from perceived default. But we should also be mindful of the fact that the Moody's rating, which also affirmed the confidence in the economy in terms of the progress government has made. But of course, it also does recognize some challenges, shortfall in government revenue envelope, revenue target, and all of that. They are quite critical. So even though we have done this, there's still a long way to go. But for Bank of Ghana, it's also good news to some extent. So close to roughly $3 billion will be hitting their account, and that should be providing a greater cushion for the stability of the city. So we've seen the city strengthening against the dollar, and which is unusual in an election year, the first quarter of the year, because when you look at the first 20 transaction days of 2019 and you compare that to 2020, you can see that this is completely opposite of what we have seen in the last couple of years.
The General Secretary of the Industrial Commercial Workers Union, that is the ICU, Solomon Korte, says the union is in talks with management of beverage manufacturing company Coca-Cola Ghana to help address some grievances following the removal of its country director, Seth Eduban. He spoke with Albert Abusu.
This duly served as a petition, and the petition was looking at some 4 cardinal issues. The first one was they are not being too enthused about the top management deciding the withdrawal of the general manager. 2, they felt they have some outstanding issues relating to their salary structure, some issue on their Z2 gains, and then finally their bonus for 2019. As a responsible union, we engaged the management. We heard the side of management story, and in fact they admitted all the issues, and they said they will begin to walk the talk in terms of those demands that have been made. For example, as we speak now, management is in the process of having a deba and then address the issues one after the other. And as a national union, we think we are collaborating together in this particular struggle with our members to ensure that at the end of the day, sanity and harmony comes back to Coca-Cola. We have had two separate meetings, and I can say all the meetings were fruitful because the concerns that the workers raised, management is willing to address them. The proactive attitude of the National Union, the ICU, and the way we've had discussions with management, we believe maybe by the close of the day, we should be able to get some solution that will satisfy both parties.
Crude oil is still feeling the impact of the deadly coronavirus, selling today at $56.04 a barrel. Let's go for more details in the commodity news. Thank you so much for watching Business. I am Sandra Esinamakene. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Do have a great evening.